Okay, I'm going to change my stance on a major point. Okay, this is huge. I have influenced a lot of people, and I see it happening here again today.
Fed. They just bring up that point and then run away from it. They're just using it as a ploy to make an anti-immigrant argument, but they don't want to follow through on a can't feed other people's children. We have to focus on feeding our own first and focus on American children. But they never go the extra mile and say, here's what we should do that actually care about children after they just were using them as political pawns at the beginning of the year, lady? Really? You believe that? And look, I would be fine with that point if that lady said, look, we need to take care of our children by doing policies X, Y, and Z. But if you notice, these people, they'll make that point. They'll say, well, no, we can't feed other people's children. We have to focus on feeding our own first and focus on American children. But they never go the extra mile and say, here's what we should do to make sure that...
Okay. He's wrong about something here, but he's talking about a point that I'm gonna go pro-immigrant now, and this isn't an easy thing to do because I do believe in taking care of American children first, but I don't think that the issue is what he's saying right now. Well, what are we going to do to help American children, citizens' children? That's not the issue. The issue here is, first of all, I'll tell you why I didn't support immigration, illegal immigration especially, but even immigration to a certain extent. And that's because I believed that we should take care of our own kids first. Now, that may sound pretty straightforward to you, except for you may not like it for some reason or one reason or another, even though it's a valid reason and it makes a lot of sense. But what I realized when I heard him talking about this is that my understanding of the capitalist system, which is a lot more sophisticated than probably most people out there, is that poor kids, it's not just something that happens. It's not some random thing. And so after coming to that conclusion, so I came to the conclusion that the ultra-rich, the oligarchy, the corporate state, whatever you want to call it, however you want to define it, is actually holding those kids hostage and holding poor people hostage. So they know people like me will say, I don't want to let immigrants into the country until we take care of our own kids. So they just say, well, we'll just keep the kids poor forever. You know, we were planning on keeping the kids poor forever. We were planning on keeping the poor forever. As a matter of fact, we're planning on creating as many poor as we think we can get away with. And if that holds them hostage to Martin Drummond and people, because there's two sides of America first, right? There's the Trump kind, and they're a bunch of racist assholes, and then there's me. And yeah, America first. Citizens before non-citizens. But guess what? If they're playing this vicious fucking game, man, where they purposely keep Americans poor in fear of immigrants, well, then I say, fuck that, man. You know, if they're going to do that, I say we go the other route. Let's be twice as vicious as they are. Let's get as many immigrants in here as possible and team up with them and vote these motherfuckers out. What do you think of that? That's what I've been afraid of all this time. I'm always afraid that, you know, immigrants will come in and they'll get together and vote in their own interest, but not ours, and take even more money away from us by taking political power for themselves. See, so there's all kinds of things. How goddamn complicated this is. And it's made complicated because it's happening within the capitalist system. And the capitalist system is specifically designed and manipulated because they're constantly changing the design to compensate for things that are going on so that they can maintain total control, right? And that makes it very complicated, and it makes it impossible to understand because 90% of what the capitalists are doing is secret, right? I mean, it's not like we can see. They keep half of the system under total secrecy, as in the IRS and everybody else doesn't even know what's going on. None of the government does, and they're not allowed to know because the oligarchy makes sure that they can keep that shit secret. Otherwise, everybody starts finding out what they're up to, like how we found out about the Clintons through these information dumps out of these big companies. So we found out who was in these big, I forget what you call them anymore. We've kind of just forgotten about it, right? What was it called? Well, they have names, but basically they're huge offshore banks and things like that where people wash their money and keep their money. I mean, I can tell you about things like BCCI, I can remember that, and I can remember in Europe that big giant bank that ended up getting caught funding terrorists and all kinds of shit. But anyway, so back to the subject. So massive change here for me, and I will be promoting this. So I'm for empowering our side by taking in as many people like us as possible. You know, I touched on this subject in another thing, and I talked about how, well, I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was basically that, if right-wing people want to come from, like, take Cuba. So the oligarchy or the establishment, I'll just call them the establishment. How about the establishment or the estagarchy? I'll come up with one. I'll settle on one. I think oligarchy and establishment need to be combined to make one word. So, estagarchy sounds good. Estagarchy. How about establigarchy? Does that sound good? I'll figure it out. Okay, so now I've lost track of. Well, what I noticed was that they will take right-wing nut jobs from Cuba or Nicaragua or whatever and allow them in and out of the United States just all they want. But as soon as some lefty kind of people coming from Honduras or whatever, the poor or what have you, no, those people can't be in and out of the United States. And I talked about how a lot of those people are terrorists in their own country. So you've got right-wing terrorists in Venezuela, and they're allowed to freely travel. And people like Ledler and who was the guy who fired the rocket at the UN? Fired a couple of bazooka shells at the UN. These people are not only not in prison, but they're allowed to travel freely between different places where they work for the American government as terrorists, because they are terrorists in their own country where they came from. Like these Cubans and stuff. I mean, one guy was convicted by the Cubans of bombing a plane that brought down the entire Venezuelan fencing team, an Olympic team. Anyway, so there's that stuff that I was talking about how they manipulate immigration. Oh, they bring as many right wingers into the United States, bring as many people from South Vietnam who supported the Americans, bring them all into the United States because they'll vote Republican, right? So, and they'll work in favor of the Republicans. Anyway, so I've changed my mind, man. I'm flip-flopped. I'm 100% behind any kind of immigration. Bring as many of these motherfuckers in as we can. Make it so that everybody's freaking starving in this country. You know, I've been advocating that anyway. I've been advocating that if we can't win, then let the right wing win and turn this country into a pile of shit, and then the people will get it up and rise in revolution. It'll be ugly. It won't be good for anybody. But, you know, if you guys are just absolutely hardcore on this, if you're gonna have your guys running around sending bombs to everybody and murdering people at abortion clinics and all this stuff and shooting up and blowing up black churches and all this shit, man, you know, it's all your fault. And if you're gonna do it, it's just like what I'm being persecuted for right now, just for saying stuff like this. Because you know what? We're fed up, man. You don't know how many people come to me a day and say, let's do it. Let's fight a war. Okay? Well, I'm not for that. But what I am for, what I'm talking about right now, is for letting it go. Letting the country go. Let it turn into a piece of shit. I mean, you're just playing that edge. You're playing that line in the sand. You're like, let's see how bad we can make it without reaching a point where the people actually rise up. And I say, fuck that. If you're going to play that game, then I'm all for letting it just go over the line, and, you know, we'll just let the chips fall where they may. I think that people who were around for the French Revolution leading up to it were probably happier after it was all over. You know, a basket full of heads and solve the whole problem. Seems like a solution to me. I don't want that. It's the last thing that I want. But, you know, there comes a point where you're so unreasonable and you're hurting so many people, killing so many people, hurting so many people that how do you deserve any sympathy from me? I'm a good and evil law and order kind of guy. And you're forcing me to say that enough is enough, right? I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. So, man, you know, enough is enough. I say fuck it. Full immigration. And by the way, I'm not telling anybody to go to war or to try to overturn the government or to shoot somebody or hurt somebody or bomb somebody. I will say that, just like I said before, which is why I'm facing a year in jail and a $500 fine. You are making people that angry. You're making them so angry they want to kill somebody or blow somebody up. You're making me so angry that I'd like to kill somebody or blow somebody up. You know, it's just a feeling. It's not anything I would ever act on. And just like I said in the same exact video that they're persecuting me for, you know, all the things I said. You can go back in my shows and find where I covered my arrest and the charges against me and all this shit. because I can't think of it right now, but I said a lot of things about, you know, whether we're justified in rising up. Am I just too chicken shit? And I probably am. You know, I mean, I don't think that's something bad to say about it, anybody. Why shouldn't somebody value their life? Why shouldn't somebody value enjoying life? Getting up every day and, yeah, okay, maybe I don't have a lot of money, so I can't have the kind of fun other people have, but you know what? I'm really happy with my life. I'm really happy with just being able to talk to people over the computer. I don't have money to go to events and go to the clubs at night and all that stuff, you know. But I'm real happy. I enjoy my exercise and I enjoy making my music and all the things I can afford. So why shouldn't I be chicken to lose all that? I'm not a person with nothing to lose. I'm not, and you know, once you're a person with nothing to lose, then you don't have anything to say anyway. You can't even get on the internet, hardly. So what does it matter, right? So yeah, legal immigration, illegal immigration, I don't care. As many people who are on our side, let's try and get them in here. The right wingers are doing that the other direction. They're trying to get as many, like, oh, the immigration system encourages anybody. Let's face it, I mean, if they encourage people with a good education, with skills, then they're probably not encouraging some poor black guy from Ethiopia to come for legal immigration. Okay, you see my point here? So they're promoting immigration of probably mostly white people and upwardly mobile. And if you're upwardly mobile in a poor country, then you're probably working for the regime in that country. So therefore, you're probably a, you know, right side of the spectrum, one way or another. Okay, so either way, let's do it. And let's encourage anything that will turn our country into a total pile of shit, and use the fact that the oligarchy, the establigarchy, is pushing it as close to the line as they can without causing a revolution. We'll say, let's just give it that nudge. let's just give it that nudge. Okay, now, yeah, I see where you can say that I'm encouraging revolution, but don't you think that they're encouraging revolution? Don't you think that it's totally gotta be totally illegal, even though they've made it legal, because they make the capitalist system that they use to do it completely legal. So they've made it legal for them to push it right up to the edge, and they will try to keep it from ever going over. And that's how they play their game. That's more vicious than a person like me who's on the other side saying, well, fuck it, if they're going to play that kind of game, let's just push it over and get it over with, right? Not allow them to push it up to the line. You know, and we can also use that as a threat. So if we can show them that we can push it over if they keep pushing it up to the line, if we can show them that if they do that, then we can push it over the line and we can make it so that the people rise up. And the people rising up doesn't necessarily mean a bloody civil war. It could just be the people rising up. It could mean anything from completely peaceful protesting to a massive civil war, right? Nobody knows what it could be, but I say push it over. So